For children with special needs, we differentiate the systems very clearly. Mainstream is mainstream, special education is special education. I think Kayleen's situation is a bit unique.
Every child is different. As much as every individual wants to be successful academically, but if we are not, it's not the end of the world.
We want to have a school where we teach the way they can learn. It's not what we want them to learn, but what they need and what they need to be able to be independent in this life.
I'm Mary. I'm mom to 3 children, and my youngest one is 8 years old. She has Down syndrome. Her name is Kaylin.
Oh, can you get the fish oil for me?
I can't remember where's the fish oil.
You're the gas.
Yeah. Is it in the cupboard?
No.
Then where is it? Oh, it's in the fridge. Oh, you found it. Okay. Kaylin is a very outgoing girl, very active, and she enjoys talking to people. But because her articulation is not there, so sometimes it is very difficult for people to understand her. And they just lose interest and they will walk away, like they don't really want to interact further with her. Oh, you have lying all over. Come. You're eating your cereal. Right, come.
This is a typical morning for 8-year-old Kaylin. Her mother has been homeschooling her for almost a year.
Let's read words.
Oh, darling.
O is in my name. A is in my name.
In 2014, Mary left her job as a secondary school teacher to care for Kaylin full-time. The girl had just survived 3 pneumonia attacks over the course of 2 years. Hospitalized for months each time in the intensive care unit, young Kaylin had to rely on life support and a feeding tube.
It was excruciating to watch because a small body connected with a lot of tubes. It was painful, yeah. And we couldn't touch her because it might dislodge the tubes and that would be life-threatening. So these were very painful moments because we wanted to be with her, but yet we couldn't. Okay, let's see whether you can do this.
Kaylin's health and physical development slowly picked up over the next 2 years, but Mary started to notice a delay in her learning that she felt was not being adequately addressed.
She was accepted in an early intervention center. But eventually I felt that she was doing the same thing as what she was doing in a hospital therapy. And there wasn't a lot of emphasis on literacy as well as numeracy. So I decided to put her in the mainstream to challenge her academic-wise, as well as to give her that opportunity to interact with the neurotypical children.
At age 5, Kaylin was accepted into the mainstream preschool, where she continued her kindergarten education for the next 3 years. In Singapore, there are mainstream schools primarily for neurotypical students and special education schools for those with special needs. However, for the latter, many parents still prefer mainstream schools out of fear that otherwise their child may be left behind.
So she learned numbers, she learned all the alphabet, the sounds, and she also made a lot of friends. It's so wonderful for a child with special needs to have this opportunity to interact with all these other children who share the same space as her, as well as the same lessons and things like that.
No, it's a mug.
Unexpectedly, the preschool closed down in early 2019. In her last year of kindergarten, Kaylin suddenly no longer had a school to go to. After witnessing Kaylin's progress, Mary was determined to find her another mainstream school so that she could keep up with her peers. If unsuccessful, she would take matters into her own hands.
We did have a trial at one of the mainstream preschool nearby, but after 4 days, we were told that the school can't support her. It's just heartbreaking to hear that she has lost an opportunity once again, to learn it in a mainstream setting. I thought I would just stop looking for another school for her, but just to see what I can do on my own.
Let's go. Let's go, let's go. Which playground do you want to go to? This one?
I think it's frustrating. Maybe it's because of her learning ability, so she needs a variety of ways to understand. We have to focus on the academics part from the mainstream, and then we have to do the therapies part from the special education. And because she has so many areas that I need to focus on, sometimes I'm very overwhelmed.
We're going back hand.
We're going on a bear hunt. I think the ideal situation would be the child goes to a school where he or she gets to interact with children and supported in academics, social, as well as the emotional aspect, and also to receive therapies as part of the school curriculum.
Be alright.
I'll be all right. Okay, I'll be all right.
Fortunately, Mary managed to secure a spot for Kaylin in a mainstream primary school, where she has begun Primary 1 this year. Since 2019, all children with moderate to severe special needs born after 1st of January 2012 have been included in a compulsory education framework.
That means they must attend school regularly as part of a nationwide initiative towards inclusiveness, highlighting the importance of education for every child.
Integrating children with special needs into mainstream schools can help reduce the discrimination they often face. However, though the right to inclusive education is now recognized in international human rights law, letting students with and without special needs learn together remains a challenge for many countries. In Singapore, around 20% of students with special needs have moderate to severe needs. These students are placed in special education schools away from the mainstream track. The remaining 80% with mild learning needs, such as dyslexia or mild autism spectrum disorder, are included in mainstream schools. But according to experts, there is more to inclusive education than that.
Why is it that not all schools offer inclusive education? Simple fact is there's not enough of manpower or teachers trained in this area. Are there existing support and resources in that school to help this teacher to cope with that one child? They have to also adapt the learning approaches and the resources used during teaching so that the school would be friendlier when they enroll kids with special needs.
Besides academic integration, it is also critical for students with special needs to be equipped with essential life skills as they transition into adulthood.
So where are we going now, Ashraf? We are going to the shop under the block. Then down there, okay, what are you going to buy, Ashraf? The milk. Ah, milk dah habis kan? Okay. We buy milk. What else you want to buy? My name is Farah. I have 3 children and Ashraf is my eldest and he has autism. Ashraf is a private person. He doesn't like people to hear what he has to say, and he's also very cautious, especially when he's in public. He always thinks that someone's going to hurt him. When he can't express, he's not happy, he will go into meltdown. It's very unpredictable because sometimes you do not know what triggers that.
With the camera crew in the car, 19-year-old Ashraf is getting visibly anxious due to the presence of people he's unfamiliar with.
Tell the whole world that, look, even you have autism. When he is into anxiety, that's where he will freeze, he will start to blink his eyes and heavy breathing. So we have to keep on reassuring him that nothing's going to happen. It can take about maybe 15 to 20 minutes for him to get out of the anxiety zone and be calm again. Okay, get one. Good job. Okay, what else you want to buy? What else? Come, here.
When Ashraf was 3 months old, he was diagnosed with a rare condition called tuberous sclerosis that caused a tumor in his brain. Over 90% of such patients suffer from epilepsy, and almost half may develop autism. At the age of 2, Ashraf had his first epilepsy attack. When he turned 3, he stopped making eye contact with people and became extremely quiet.
So that's where he was diagnosed with autism. His meltdown especially is something that we couldn't control. One time I brought him to the park. There was downpour, heavy rain, so I told him we have to leave. He got so mad, so he was crying. I have to carry him into the car, and we reached home, he was still crying until I really don't know what to do. So that was the point where I totally break down. Come, Shah, let's go.
It is common for people with autism to suffer from issues such as extreme difficulty with change. To cope with everyday life, they tend to develop repetitive routines that may seem like unusual behavior.
You know, when he leaves a place, he will actually stop and to check center, left, right, back, front, to see whether he's left anything. We know where he's coming from, but it will annoy us. But if you look at the positive side, it really teaches us patience.
Through his growing up years, Ashraf continued to suffer from constant seizures and meltdowns. But with an above-average IQ score, he was deemed fit for mainstream. However, that only led to more problems.
Basically, he developed social issues. He cannot mix around with his peers. He doesn't know how to share. He doesn't know how to play together. He doesn't understand a lot of things socially.
When he was in primary 3, there was a bully case. His classmates actually threw a bucket of water onto him. So after that day, we could see he was really affected.
He just doesn't want to go to school anymore.
Shortly after, Farah and Ali decided to place Ashraf in a special education school so that he could cope better. In 2015, Ashraf was given the option to take the primary school leaving exam, a major exam that impacts a student's trajectory through higher education. But preparing for it was so stressful that he ended up having seizures almost every day. Eventually, with great effort, Ashraf managed to pass 1 out of 3 subjects.
Of course, I would love if Ashraf can stay in a primary mainstream setting, but I felt that I've done wrong, because I keep pushing him, you see. I'm being selfish, I want him to be according to what I planned for him. That was a turning point when I told myself, look, if I don't help my son, who else will help him?
That revelation led to the creation of MIJ Special Education Hub. Farah and Ali wanted to create a safe learning space to equip their son and others like him with essential life skills instead of focusing on academic achievement.
So let's take a look here. Okay, so when you go to work, okay, you need to take care of your appearance. Okay, so do you wear jeans to work? No. Okay, so what do you wear?
Long pants.
Okay, long pants. What else? Okay, do you need to wear?
Giving up a high-stakes corporate career, Farah dedicated all her time to learn about special needs education and therapies through courses and consulting professional educators in order to come up with a proper curriculum.
As parents, how long will we be in this world, you see? What will happen to my child if I'm gone? So that's something that we want to get him ready. The beautiful part is where parents see me as another parent who is in the same journey as them. That gives me a sense of fulfillment because I'm able to share the knowledge that I have gained in the past years, the real experience I have with my own son.
It has almost been a decade since the school was launched. With only 15 students at first, the school now caters to over 300 students, from children to adults, through courses such as movement therapy, school readiness programs, and vocational training.
As the population grows older, what happens to the number of kids after they graduate from a special school after 18? How many are gainfully employed and independent How informed is the private sector in their willingness to want to employ these special needs adults? To me, that's the biggest gap.
I know that there are people who don't think very highly of people with Down syndrome because they are labelled as intellectually disabled. But I hope that she can be resilient enough to just ignore those and to just prove herself, prove her worth.
So my best advice to any child with special needs, just do your best and celebrate small success. As much as every individual wants to be successful academically, but if we are not, it's not the end of the world.
As an educational leader in Asia, Singapore is ramping up its efforts to improve inclusive education. But with a diverse population that has various learning needs, a more holistic approach that goes beyond academic performance is critical. For Simon Asia, I'm Miro Lu in Singapore.